Okay, audio works. That's Claude. Just kidding, guys. All right, so look. Okay, so I came up with some stuff here, right? I work in these sessions here. I want to show first off progress. I deployed GraphHub and someone I don't know, man, like the graphs broke. My API account went all down, but it's good because we're building on it. And the why is that all fucked up? Okay, so GraphHub is great. I don't think GraphHub is going to be the GitHub of graphs. I wanted to try to shape it like that. You know, if you want something to be some way, you want to figure out how to shape it into that. And I don't think, I think the name's good. I think graphs are good, but trying to stick to the formality of having repositories that are graphs and building this version control system that is, native graph, all that is more in the open source domain. And like, we need to rock and roll, right? Um, so I want to show you something here that is um, all same code here. Okay, so GraphHub we have now. Um, the deployed version doesn't even fucking work, but I want to show you creation. Now creation, keep in mind this is not the product, but this is the admin. This is the cloud. This is the cluster that is essentially evolving it. I'm using it to do code generation. I'm using it to do these graphs. And then it's helping to shape GraphHub into a more focused, niched, um, really easy to understand interface. So, but I want to show a couple things around on what I've done. So, the code generation has been big. A lot of this I'm doing on the command line. I've been doing this for a while, but so essentially what we have is we have the ability to connect to clusters. Um, this is a cluster running in Google Cloud, right? As it scales, things will happen, and then the graphs. The biggest thing that we have on graphs, and this is a good thing. So we came up with a vocabulary graph. Now, telling a customer or a user when they come to GraphHub that they can only build the graphs, it didn't make sense. But what I'm doing here is I'm building the foundation for the runtime of GraphHub. And I came up, I've just iterated on this. This isn't the best view of seeing it, but, I can create new graphs. And I'm using this to build GraphHub. And we settle on vocabulary. You want to build a vocabulary graph, and we have to get users to think vocabulary are like, it's the metadata. It's like it's the types. Like, we need a vocabulary to use for when we develop a system requirement. So that's what this kind of one is. So I won't create a vocabulary. We already have a few test ones. What's the difference between a model and a data graph? Good question. And I might not display that to the user, but in graph theory, okay, if you have a vocabulary, it gives you a list of words, meaning how they can connect to each other, but you also want to get it one level more validated. You want to create a model that represents system requirements. So you might say we need at least two of these, whatever. And then from the data, from the model, you then conform to a model. And as we'll see, this foundation of graphing is powerful. It's good stuff. And we're not going to force graphs down people's throats, but everything in the system can be modeled in a graph. And so if I just if I show you like a quick what was I doing? Well, here's the cool part. In this case, I'm actually, before I even do this, so I have code generation capabilities, and each one of these are kind of like a repository. And the UI here kind of sucks, but I have a Kanban board of development specs. So we're getting off of the command line on Claude Code, and getting to the point where we want to automate and let AI help us. How do I turn off this camera? The AI here is relative to the page, and so the demo here, all of these specs, I was able to create from a graph. Like, that's super fucking cool. So on my vocabulary graphs, I have a system core. This is using React Flow. It's not. I mean, we're gonna make it work because I don't have time to. Like, if you go to Marrow, if you go to Figma, you just get cleaner canvases. But the core of this product is honestly not going to be graph modeling directly. But as we can see here, we have capabilities, decisions. I can move these around. I can organize them, and that's all reusable stuff. That's really good. So this is the system core vocabulary. I'll get to my point. I did a graph POC model where see, this is also cool. This palette here. Based on the vocabularies that you use, your palette is dynamically configured, which is really fucking cool. So we love graphs, but all right. So we just came up with some stuff here. This is vocabulary, I think, but here we go. A realm, okay. I've used the word realm 1,000 fucking times. At this point, it don't even matter what it means. But it's a compiler, and it's a connector that connects the graphs to the code generation. Because the code generation infrastructure on here works where we connect to these clusters. I did this really nice. Like I created a web view, and one of my issues here is getting Claude Code to use my subscription key instead of using the API key. Of course, they're not going to make it easy to do that, but it's just cool. So we can have multiple Claude Code containers. But what's the punchline? I create a new realm, and a realm compiles a graph into something. So the one that I did today was I had AI here, just kind of I call it Honey. Honey's my AI. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. Hey, honey, I'm divorced. It's all right. So, honey, go away. Honey, all right. So this is pretty cool. Like this is the other cool part. I'm able to create these things, these capabilities, based on the grammar, the vocabulary that I'm doing, and I can double click into a node. That's really cool. I might not have the back, but see if that makes sense for you. So the modeling isn't just being on a canvas. You can double click into another node, and it's just good stuff. So these realm types can compile into different things, and this is actually taking that entire graph. It's using the vocabulary. It's figuring out what the requirements are, what the capabilities are, and it's automatically generating specs, or you can call them stories if you want to think of development stories. It's automatically creating the developer stories, it's scoping them out, and it's putting them in a Kanban board. So we just went from, without anything, we just went from creating vocabulary graphs, metadata graphs. We created a vocabulary for defining things like capabilities, constraints, entities that might model your system. And then from that vocabulary, I created a model to kind of constrain things. And then from that, I created a system graph that models some stuff in GraphHub that we want to do. And um, this is cool too. This is actually really cool. I might be on the wrong one. So different things can compile to different things. Well, you get so tired of using AI and having all like these fragmented documents. So one type is putting in a bunch of documents, and I'm in the wrong one here. This is so cool. All right, so like, great. What am I getting at? This compiled, and I have to figure out which one it was. I think it's like domain experts. Okay. Yeah, there's just some random shits in there. Yeah, 79 nodes. Okay. So this domain graph, look, build the domain graph schema from docs. Look at some of these requirements. Pass, pipeline extraction, right? Whatever. Our outputs are that. Okay, not to lose you, I'm going back to my code gen, and I'm going back to my realm tricks graph, and I'm going into the spec board, which are all the stories, and it compiles these specs. I don't like the word spec, but I don't know what the right word is. And so these things get refined, and it breaks it down, and then in our board, as we drag these things over to ready, and we have AI that can help us move them along. As these things get ready, they execute, and what happens is, let's see here. Yeah, so it goes out, it spins up a container, so we can do multiple instances, and now it's developing code, and it's putting that in a clean branch. And let's quickly recap. I know I'm like repeating myself here, but what do we just do? We started with a blank runtime. We created vocabulary graphs. We figured out that the right language to use is vocabulary, a metagraph, a model and data. We have to decide if we're going to put that to the user. And from these graphs, you can create new graphs that target vocabularies. And when you do that, you now get a palette where you can actually either use AI to build the graph, and it's got the constraints, or I found sometimes you don't even want to deal with typing, you just want to add new stuff there. And so the this is cool. The visualization here, that looks a lot better. Doesn't it look better? So that's creating specs. They're going on to the pipeline to generate code. We're running Claude Code in containers. We're creating pull requests, and we're creating feature branches, and thinking about how we can now do development. I got into prompts a little bit. I haven't mastered this one yet because I haven't had the need to. These entity graphs, and obviously you want to have dynamic data. Fabric is kind of one that is was a proof of concept, but it's essentially creating new structured data, right? Those graph nodes that define types. Here's an interface that lets us treat it more like a web app. I don't think that's going to be useful to users. Starting to get to tenant management, okay? Because we're going to switch into GraphHub and how all this relates here. This is how we're managing our LLMs. Claude's a fucking ripoff. Our file storage is going into Google Cloud buckets. We're trying to abstract that, and that's essentially that's creation. So let's sign out of that if it decides to let us. That's annoying. That's why. All right. I think it's cool. All right, so what the fuck? What are we doing? How are we gonna make money? So GraphHub, this is too rigid. I'm trying to fit it in. I was trying to create graphs like you create one graph at a time. I'm trying to pop it up here. Somewhere, motherfuckers. Okay. I try to make this feel like a GitHub for graphs. And it's limiting, okay? It's worthy, okay? I mean, we have, if you go to Google, and thank God I finally got the fucking search engine to do that. If I search for realm tricks, which is a life in the past, look, it doesn't even do that. So all the more reason we stick with GraphHub. Semantic source for AI. I can't change that because it'll mess it up. But going back here, yeah, it makes a lot of sense for someone to create a model, to create a vocabulary. There's 1,000 ways you can think about it. It could be one enterprise graph that's broken into subgraphs that has a governance around it. There's 1,000 different directions it can go. Can we turn it into a public exchange to try to create standards? One few people, there's no way, right? And it felt too complicated. So all we're doing here is we are keeping graphs. We are keeping GraphHub. I'm going to slow down the public repositories, and what we're going to do is we're going to have this ability to come in here and create a workspace. That's the right word. Not a repository. People aren't going to really... I asked my 11-year-old kid what made more sense, a workspace. And in the workspaces, we're going to have... You know, I've gone through a few iterations of all this user interface stuff, and it's going to be clean, and it's going to be very simple. And people, not developers, are going to create AI assets. So you're going to get into a workspace, and we have these things called reactors. We want to create the capability to let AI just absorb a bunch of documents, a bunch of just shit, and have it start processing it. And then in the workspace, the person that's trying to achieve a goal can kind of guide it the way it wants. Sorry about that. Sorry. That's why. This is really cool, Claude design. So the only way this works, it's got to be super simple. It's got to have value. So we're going with GraphHub as workspaces, and we're carrying over the ability to create a vocabulary graph. And we have to think through the terminology that we want to use because it's going to have to go long term. And that's important because start thinking about versioning. What this platform is doing is it's a little bit like this little land over here, right? Realm Tricks is dead. No, I'll keep the name, but all the thinking has evolved. And the cool thing here is two things. What is one of the primary reasons AI fails in production or companies have such a hard time getting AI? Because there's no way to create agents, to create graphs, to create models, and to put them into a sandbox, and to put them into integration boxes, and to let your workforce, not your engineers, but the people who are sitting here and know what type of HR benefits they want to put into their AI agents actually use. And so GraphHub lets them come in here and they can create workspaces. Obviously, we're working on it. Google's a fucking pain. And the very first thing is this GraphHub, the way it links into creation is that we actually have tenants. Okay, so that's how it's kind of weird how I built this. It's going to manage this. A tenant can upload documents. And one of the terms I also want to use is, okay, so you have workspaces. We want to stay away from using repository, but we need to have versioned things that are because there's a runtime. There's an AI runtime to this, and we're just gonna call those assets. There's assets, and in a workspace you can build assets. And when we get to our dependency terminology, having a repository depend on another repository, it just doesn't align with natural thinking with the way the world is today. But assets are good, and there's asset types. And the way that we build assets is in a workspace. And obviously, we're going to get our vocabulary graphs. And the thing that I'm working on right now is building a pipeline where in the workspace, I don't know if we just call them reactors, but we need to have, I'm building where I can take a bunch of tax forms. Like here's a good use case. All right, so this is, hang on, I'm just doing all this bullshit. This actually is a worthy example. All right. Tax returns. Okay, think of a tax return, guys. Think of a, okay, that's a nonprofit tax returns. Me trying to download, I was doing some research on something, uploading these documents into a workspace and then letting me build a vocabulary graph. I want to have a balance sheet. I want to let the AI possibly build the graph for me. So now I start uploading documents and I'm starting to see the graph. However we, where the fuck am I? The graph can be auto-build and it can be refined through conversation and AI. How much conversation versus just clicking and dragging? Fuck you. Okay. It's a bad example. Let's go back here. Okay. I don't even know if this is gonna work. I don't care. Yeah, okay, fuck you, Google. All right. Okay, so you're in here, you upload these tax forms and you start seeing things like a balance sheet. You start seeing a section for line items. There's a million ways that we can model documents. We can either do the straightforward one, which is just the sections. We have to have agents and tools that can do OCR and they can do all this stuff, but where we go in a really simple way is we introduce this thing called GraphHub and come in here, hey, create a workspace. All right. Like we gotta get like a really good, simple demonstration so that they get it planted in their brains. And the way to do that is to have, hey, here's some vocabulary that you use in your language, right? Let's talk about HR benefits, a provider, a plan, a deductible, and then boom, show that graph. Let them click around, and then say that's called vocabulary. You build these in workspaces. Now think about if you have all these benefit plans that you want to get your employees or your workforce to be able to get knowledge from within their AI agents across the company. So here comes the reactor or the refinement, and it says just, hey, upload a bunch of shit. Upload a bunch of your benefit plans, and then we're going to see the AI kind of doing background processing, and they refine this to the point where they decide, okay, do I want to extract structured entity from these documents? If so, I go back, I create another graph, and I say I want to have a plan. I want to have a model that's a deductible. And that process that we just talked about should not take more than 5 or 10 minutes, because we're going to bootstrap it with AI, and we're going to kind of give them wizards so that they don't so that they follow a path to success, unlike my life. What happens then? We just built a knowledge graph of their entire documents at in their workspace. And so now it's time to see in the workspace our assets. There's a tool set right there. We just created a tool set asset. Any AI agent now with the right permission can get plugged into that. And now when they ask about benefits, plans, deductibles, and they will be able to test that in here with an agent that is that's linked to their workspace. So the workspace has the ability to upload stuff, documents, okay, have conversational modeling, let AI try to model it for you. And if we think about all that, we'll get to agents, right? There's going to be errors. We're going to have to figure out dependencies. We might start without dependencies. Create a fucking tool pack. Except I want to call it, I like assets, but we can put permissions on it. And so now the person that created this workspace who works in HR can just like pull up a fucking AI agent and start talking to it. How's it working? Start asking it questions. And in that AI, we also have tools that are allowing it to say, hey, you're not answering my question. I thought you would answer this. And we refine it. And then that artifact, that tool, that asset gets put into a version state. Now the question is, once you've deployed an artifact out of your workspace, does the workspace go away? I have to think about that. To get those MCP tools running, I've done the work there. It's a little hard to create the schemas dynamically. It's also hard to, I just got to figure more of that out. But so we take this all end to end. Don't pay attention to that. Creation, wherever the fuck you are. I don't know. This is managing tenants. How do you manage a multi-tenant platform? This turned out to be it. This code gen stuff is super fucking cool. I'm not gonna try to market that. It's just too people don't get this shit. But these graphs that I'm building are starting to be foundations for GraphHub. So we deploy a build, we remove all the public shit, and it's just create a workspace. I want that introduction, like that quick way to be like, hey, here's vocabulary. Hey, turn your document structures into how you want. Graphs have visual, they have visual relatability. Everyone understands a graph, right? And so you get this vibe where I can come in here and create a workspace, and wait a minute, I can fucking upload those tax returns. All right, and I'm so tired of going through these tax returns and trying to go through each one for every year to pull these things out. So the AI can just build a graph, a vocabulary graph on what a nonprofit tax return looks like. And yes, we go back to that discussion earlier about, do we have a public repository of graphs? Absolutely, down the road, because if you can have a graph that models a federal exempt tax return. So that's the thought, that's the thinking, and I have documents uploading, and now I need to see. I need to just get into the weeds a bit more, and I think I got to start humble. Trying to be this global graph hub, but I do want to show you one last thing that I want to end with, and let me see if I can find it here. No, that's not it. See, this is more of a GitHub feel. It's good, but it doesn't work for an enterprise user. And that's where our money is. So I did want to show you this one thing here. If I can't find it, it's fine. Basic design, kind of zoom here. Oh, okay. This is worth it. Trust me. 2 clouds. Oh, dude, it's okay. All right, I'm not gonna waste your time. But wait a minute. Wait a minute. I want to go back to design. Motherfucker. Okay, design. All right, that's all right. I'm about to fucking give up on that. Oh wait. Okay, chats are now they're now work tasks. They're trying to get rid of the idea of having all these long-winded chats, but here, it's coming right up here. Or if not, it's right here. Okay, here we go. Something like that. Keep it simple. That's not the right way, but let people get in the graph hub, create AI artifacts or assets, and then let DevOps and let engineering deploy that in there. I bet you we could have a cloud business. I bet you we could turn this into a workflow automation. I bet you there's a lot of opportunities that I could take it if I could just fucking get there. That'd be nice.